conflicting priorities of meeting the urban sprawl, particularly from Swindon, and its impact on the Wootton Bassett and Cricklade area, made us think about the need for the authorities to talk to each other more in terms of their approach to planning, so that the dialogue between Swindon and Wiltshire Council needs to get stronger and more intense, particularly at the fringes where development of housing meets one another, in order not to change the actual village character and the reason people live in some of the villages in this area. Running counter to that in many ways was the identified the fact that there was a lack of affordable housing, particularly for younger members of households who need to become independent and actually still wish to remain in their own community. Now, we didn't necessarily define affordable housing too tightly, but we recognised the fact that that didn't just mean renting, it meant trying to look at innovative ways of making housing more affordable within the village footprints. We did also talk about the design of that housing and how it needed to keep pace with modern demands. And to that end, we tried also to move on to look at some potential solutions and look to some of the larger providers of housing, particularly the housing associations, who've actually got some housing in some of the smaller villages, which is now becoming out of date, is getting a bit tired and possibly no longer up with modern standards and meeting modern aspirations, and seeing how that could be reconfigured and remodeled to hopefully meet the demands of modern living. And that doesn't just mean young people living in small flats, it also means actually recognising the fact that older people are not necessarily too interested in moving out of a decent sized family home and immediately throwing away half their furniture and their lifestyle in order to move into a very small flat in quite depressing surroundings. What they might actually do is looking to tailor something and make better use of the built footprint of some of the existing buildings and providing something which actually has different kinds of tenures, but also different kind of space standards from some of the accommodation we already have.
Questions that we needed answering and wasn't very clear in the reports, and we needed to drill down more and have some more detail, in particular as to why it was that we're seen as having a high transport footprint, and we wondered whether that was because of the M4 and the A419, but as I said, we needed more information on that. And there were one or two other things which we felt more information was needed, so we put that down on our sheet. We also felt that there was an expectation when you live in a rural county as Wiltshire that you would expect peace and quiet, and you would also expect some sort of vistas. We felt that when it came to access to the open countryside, not everybody can have open countryside access. Obviously we have a great range of footpaths and areas to go to, but if you're unable to access it for one reason or another, having an open feel is obviously important. So, what else did we talk about? We talked about flooding. On the report it talks about flooding mainly from rivers, using the EA data. It doesn't take into account any pluvial flooding, which is the flooding that comes over land, of which we find that there's obviously a lot of, mainly because all our ditches and culverts and things perhaps haven't been maintained as well as they should have done in the past, and we feel there should always be a good programme to keep all of that clear. We also felt that, something close to my heart, that Braden Forest was a very important aspect to this area. It spread a vast area across Swindon and Wootton Bassett, Cricklade, Minety and Purton. Only a small part of it is left, and it's not mentioned in the report at all, and we do feel it needs to be recognised as an important area and have appropriate protection. We talked about waste especially being seen as a resource that we should perhaps get energy from. we talked about water. And actually water was one of our main priorities. That came up as number one, as to how do we address the water shortages? Why have we got water shortages? And we feel that planners need to consider the utilities. When we start putting housing in, it's no point putting more housing in if there isn't the utilities to serve the existing population. So before they can agree to say more housing, we need to have some sort of grids available, or we need to go back to looking at the reservoirs that we have in our area. At Latham we have pumping stations for water. So the water is in this area, it's just that we're not seeming to be using it. So that was one of the first main priority. We felt that people needed to have incentives to have water meters. They needed to be educated more to understand why they need to reduce their water consumption. The second issue we brought up, which we thought was important, was also waste. And again, education of our people to understand why we need to reduce waste and why we need to recycle. Why is it that this area of Wiltshire, the northern part, has the highest rates of waste to be collected and the lowest recycling? And we're hoping that when the new programme of waste collection is sort of underway, this will indicate as to whether that is going to help us or whether there's another underlying reason as to why it's happening, as to whether we now then need to look how we can address it. So we felt also that people should be encouraged to shop locally, try and reduce their packaging when they're buying, and there should be some incentives as to reducing the waste. Third item, which we put down as number 3, was energy, and try to reduce our energy consumption, and really to inform people that there are other alternatives for buying your your oil, for example, in that you could be part of the Community First scheme where they're buying the oil more cheaply. Also to be aware of the insulation schemes that Wiltshire Council run, so you can have your walls insulated and your loft insulated. And generally, again, it comes back to education, educating people to be aware of the energy they're using so that they do reduce it. We felt that infrastructure is very important and that planners need to be aware of infrastructure, and as I touched on earlier, that we do have the appropriate utilities to serve the population we have, let alone if we're going to go for any extra population. And another matter that did come up because of the water quality we have here is we wondered if we needed to drill down and find out why the water quality was poor and whether it was just locally to one area or another, because one of the people on our tables did say that the water quality in the Lynham area was very poor because this is the surface water and river courses, because of the pollution from Lynham Air Base, and whether this would now change now that the MOD have changed their sort of activities there. Okay.